Today's episode of the postgame is about being comfortable in the darkness. Welcome to the Father, Sons, Brothers podcast. It's Gareth. Today's episode is a postgame of an experience that I went through last week, which was spending 5 days and 5 nights in what's called a darkness retreat. Going into a completely dark space by myself, spending 5 days and 5 nights there, and using this opportunity to reflect on my experience there and hopefully share some of the magic of what I learned and to share a little bit more about this medicine of a solo dark retreat, why you might be interested in doing it, why it doesn't sound like solitary confinement, even though that's what it is in some ways. And kicking today's show off, I am going to be introducing somebody who you've seen on the podcast before, Mr. Lenerd Louw. And one of the most beautiful things about this podcast that I needed to get over for myself was the idea that it needed to be perfect or to look a specific way. So when we first started the Father, Sons, Brothers podcast, we had an agreement that we would do one episode a week for 12 weeks. And something about that rigid structure was important for us to get the show out. But when I did a post game of that first season, the first 12 episodes of the podcast, I noticed what made me feel a lot more comfortable was just being like, it doesn't have to look anyway. Let out short versions of the podcast, long form conversations, co-create with Matt, co-create by myself, co-create with other men inside the tribe. And today's one of those opportunities where, since I got out of the dark retreat, Lenerd has been asking some amazing questions about, my experience. And lots of people have been asking me, how was it? Share what was going on there. And so we knew there was going to be a post game about the dark retreat. Matt happens to be really busy in his life in Spain. So it's with great pleasure that I bring back onto the show Mr. Lenerd Louw from Cape Town. How's it, brother?
Hi, Gareth. It's great talking to you again. I always love our chat. Good seeing you, man.
Yeah, thank you for your interest and your support, not only leading up to the dark retreat, but also your thoughts. I know you said a few times you were like living your life during those 5 days going like, shit, Gareth's still in the dark. And I realized that I had that before when I had a friend who did a 10-day silent retreat. And I was like, fuck, I'd been living my life. And every time I reflected on where he was, I was like, wow, he's still in silence. And so I know that feeling of having a mate inside a container and then reflecting on where they are. And so, yeah, we're going to be using this post-game format for Lenerd to ask some of the questions that he had around the dark retreat. This is my second time going into the dark. And Lenerd has an interest in it. And so we thought we'd record our conversation. He has a few questions about the dark retreats. I have a few experiences that I'd like to share. And super jazzed to be having this conversation with you, bro.
Yeah, it's so cool chatting. And you said this is the second time. How long was the previous one? Also 5 days or 3 days or different?
It was the same. The first time was the same amount of time. Obviously, the difference between the first and the second time is the second time you've done one before. So you sort of know what's coming.
Awesome, man. Now, listen, this is always called me. I haven't done it yet, but now that you've done it, I think it's calling me stronger, and hearing some of my questions answered, maybe even stronger. So the first question is, why the hell would you do it? And what was your intention? Just broadly speaking, what made you jump?
From the man who wrote the book called Jump. This is, I've always had this practice in my life over the last few years of like being really focused on my personal development. I recognize in my own life that the more that I improve the relationship that I have with myself, the better I am with all the other things in my life. Meaning, when I show up and do the work for me, I'm a better lover, I'm a better leader in my business, I feel more comfortable with my money game. All the things that tend to draw my attention and my energy tend to be a reflection of the stability that I create with myself. And so there's a part of me that has this like strong, I call him my drill sergeant. He's the oak who makes me get out there and get into the ice bath every day and move my body and exercise. In that, I know that doing those hard things makes my life easier somehow. And I think there's a part of me that wants to just live an easy, abundant, carefree life. And so I continually say yes to these personal development challenges. And what I notice is often when something comes into my awareness and I feel contraction or a bit of like fear around it, I've recognized that there's magic there for me. So the first time I heard about a 10-day silent retreat, I was like, not a fuck, why would you want to do that? I then went through the process of sitting through that 10-day silent retreat and noticed how much magic there was for me in doing that. And so the dark retreat the first time was the same thing. I was like, why on earth would you do that? That sounds scary as hell. And then I'm like, well, there's probably some magic in there for me. And so, anchored in this continual life practice that I have for myself, but also what we bring to the tribe, Lenerd is part of the Father, Sons, Brothers tribe, is going through these, call them initiations, where the version of you that goes into the thing, whether it's a vision quest or a vipassana or a ISTA training or something like this, you come out the other side a different person because you've been through some transformational experience that is held in a specific way that allows you to reconnect with certain parts of yourself or identify or recognize that there's stories running. And so my main intention going in this time was to sit and to make sure that I'm listening to the parts of myself that I don't always listen to. You and I have spoken about this before, this analogy of the inner kingdom. Like, I see my world and my being as a kingdom, and the voices in my head are all different characters. They've all got the microphone from time to time, and the drill sergeant is saying, go and do Vipassana, go and do push-ups. Go. The CEO is like, make sure you create podcasts and make offers to make money. And so all these different voices come at various times. And I think these are what develop the strategies in my life that support the decisions that I make. So when the decisions that I make are a function of all of these voices, and some of these voices are wounded. There's a polite boy that exists inside me that's always people pleasing the world. And so 5 days and 5 nights without any distraction, no light, no mobile phone, no connection to the outside world is really just a chance for me to sit and to be with myself. And my desire was to sit and see the voices that I'm not listening to in my everyday life because I'm busy. You can't avoid those voices when you're alone in the dark for 5 days. So yeah, that was one of my main intentions going into the dark.
Yeah, I must say it's was it challenging, Gareth? Was it tough? Because I was thinking, I actually, last week I was here in Scarborough and Cape Town at a walk, and I went, "Oh, Gareth is in the dark room now." You popped into my mind, whilst you were in the middle of your journey, and I
Uh-huh.
went and I had a thought back when I was in Copenhagen, did a month long Tantra training, and then after that month, I had another month where I was just on the beach, hut on the beach that I lived in, and where I decided I'm not going to do anything for a month. Now, I tell you, that second month was much more challenging than the first month, with all the vulnerability and all the tough exercises that you do in this month long Tantra workshop. Just being
Mm-hmm.
not doing anything was for me much more challenging. And there you could
Uh-huh.
go on your scooter and you could go and get breakfast, you could jump in the sea. But still, I tell you, it was super challenging. And after the month of not doing anything, I learned a lot. But it was challenging, And as I say, there's a lot of other stuff to do. You go and you drive around and you can go for dances and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, you were in my thoughts, man. What happens? What comes up there? How tough is it? How difficult is it?
You know, I want to come back and ask you a question about the why that second month is so tough. But I notice, and this is true, I think most people listening to this will agree, we're living in a world where we're continually more and more busy. The technology is continually calling for our attention in a way that we've never had this before, and it continues to get stronger and stronger the more we move more of our life onto our devices. I want to set up an alarm, I want to play music, I want to check my bank, I need to send a message to Lenerd. All of that stuff is happening through this device. And so I believe that our attention is the most precious thing we have. I think it's more precious than time. And the reason is that you can waste time putting your attention on stuff that doesn't matter. But when you're conscious of where you place your attention, these are the the time spent under attention is what manifests into your world. And so, yeah, going to these places where you can genuinely be by yourself and tune into, where am I placing my attention? Oh, look at that. I'm running a story about an ex lover from 25 years ago, or I'm worried about the conversation I had yesterday, which in the scheme of things makes no fucking difference. I'm not in the present moment. And I think I've been getting to these places of wanting to cultivate more present moment awareness because this is our point of power. It doesn't matter the story I tell about last week or what I think might happen tomorrow. Now is my point of power. And so that's like a strong desire. And so, by the nature of these initiations, it's different for everybody. It depends on what shit you're carrying. It depends what your state of mind is going in. I think it depends on your personal practices. I went in feeling super strong. I've been over the last few months really focusing on my meditation morning and evening, being super grounded, super present in my life and feeling pretty good. So I was like, this should be easy. I got in there on the first day. I was just settling in, getting set up in my flow, finding my way around the room because you can't see anything in this room. I'll actually edit a little piece over this video so you can see the size of the room. But it's basically 4x4. It's got a bed. It's got a small little bench, a shelf to put your clothes, um, a basin to wash your hands, a composting toilet, and a shower. And you've just got to navigate yourself around that space. I took in a yoga mat, and that was pretty much it. And so the first day was good, sitting there by myself, just settling in. And then the second day came, and I was like, whoa, I could not get away from thoughts of sexual fantasies from my past and future projected sexual fantasies of things that I still want to do in my life. And I was sitting there going like, hold on a second. I've been meditating. I know that I'm not my thoughts. I can watch them and let them go. And I think I've been pretty good at that. Day 2 in the dark, I was like, okay, there's a story. I let it go. Not 5 seconds later, I realized I'm stuck in another timeline thinking about something from the past. And for the entire second day, I could not find ease in this inner kingdom. Some part of me was continually like looking for stories or running stories around intimacy. And yeah, I got into bed that night and I was like, I don't know if I can do another 4 days of this, just this continual bombardment of intimacy and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it got me to this place of tuning in. And I think the third day was really one of the important days on this experience for me, which was checking in with my inner kingdom, like, what is going on? Why is this coming up in this way? And when I tune into what was coming up for me, the voices that I heard were the 3 characters or citizens in my inner kingdom that don't have a voice. It's the animal, my bull, who likes to be in the body, who likes to have sex, who likes to eat food, who likes to be in the world. It's the tiger, and it's the dragon, the dark masculine energy, and all of those are connected to intimacy. And myself and my partner Araminta, Lenerd, you know this, and we have spoken about it before on the pod, are in a place in our relationship where our intimacy has taken a different rhythm as she's going through perimenopause, not feeling super connected to her body. And so we've been navigating, how do we cultivate intimacy in our connection, still move sexual energy between us when she's not feeling it, and we're in a monogamous container. And so what I recognized is on day 2, as soon as I wasn't distracting myself, these 3 parts that love to run intimacy, to feel wanted, to move sexual energy, were in the corner of the kingdom just going like, rah, making a huge amount of noise, like they haven't been seen over the last few months.
Okay.
And some part of me has been like stoically showing up for my relationship, like, I'm here for this. I'm here for this no matter what. And I'm going to be with this. And, Mint and I are going to spend our lives together, which I'm clear about. And the animals are like, when are we going to fuck again? Like, what is going on? Like, they want to move this energy. And so, yeah, this is like one of the things that comes from this. Is just what was also super interesting is on day 2, realizing immediately when these uncomfortable feelings came, I had a strong hit to have cannabis. And I think that's what's come up in my life in the past, has been like, when those parts feel uncomfortable, cannabis makes the whole kingdom just go like, yeah, we're okay for now. Things are good. The animals calm down and just chill in the corner for a bit. But it's not getting to the root of the problem. It's not a healthy expression of actually letting that energy run and move. It's more masking it. And so, yeah, I think those were 2 pieces of absolute gold that came from the time there. But it was more difficult on those 2 days than I had anticipated it would be. Hey, FSB crew, a quick message to say 97% of you who watch or consume this podcast are not subscribed. Subscribing to the show really supports us to be able to grow and reach more people, as well as include and improve the quality and caliber of guests that we have on this show. Our goal is to get this number down to 70%. And so if you have ever received any value From the content and conversations on this podcast, please consider subscribing. It really supports us and the work that we're doing. Now, back to the show.
Whilst we're following that, I've got a few other questions, but whilst we're following that role, that timeline, and then day 3, 4, 5, a brief summary of how your 5 days went.
So they all fucking merge into each other, to be honest, because you're in complete darkness. You can hear the birds outside, and you get a meal through the door in the morning at 9:30, and then another one at around 4:30. I chose to fast the last 2 days, so I wrote a little note in the dark and I put into the little box where they deliver the food, and I said, I just want tea for the last 2 days. The last 2 days, I think what I really noticed was just the fact that these three parts of myself were seen. And I was like, okay, I see what this is now. Fuck, it felt like so much of the energy just dissipated. I didn't almost have to do anything. It was just like that they were seen was important. So I really found my flow in the last 2 days, and it was about really integrating some of that stuff. I did a lot of emotional release and a lot of self-pleasure around this theme, just being with myself and moving my sexual energy and moving my emotional energy, the rage and frustration. But I also then noticed that my meditations were a lot more calm, and the days are still long. You sit in that dark room by yourself and you lie around and just stare up at the wall and, just wait for the time to pass, which is the nature of being alone by yourself. Like you said, a month just sitting on the beach by yourself, it's surprisingly hard to do. I find myself always doing. There's always something to do. There's a to-do list. There's another thing to record. I've got a meeting to have, someone I want to hang out with. Oh, I haven't moved my body today. There's always something to do. And we don't spend a lot of time just being. So yeah, once I'd moved through these pieces, it felt like there was a little bit more flow. And it really felt like those last few days were the integration of that strong lesson through the emotional release and aspecting and self-pleasuring.
I'm happy to hear that you were not stopping your self-pleasuring practice whilst you were there.
No,
And
bro. And I also, in some ways, I saw this as a bit of a honeymoon, although it's not really a honeymoon, but like a time to be with myself. And these practices are something that I'm cultivating. But when you have nothing else to do, it's like, okay, I don't do as much emotional release as I think would serve me. Meaning, I know it's good for me to move my emotional body, but to just go and bang pillows and fucking rah 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 rah, I tend to only do that when I'm feeling that I'm really triggered. But I think it's good, like going to the gym, to move your body even when you don't feel like it. I don't always do that. So a part of it is like, okay, I'm going to go into the dark for 5 days. I'm going to make space for all of these practices. Self-pleasuring, aspecting, and emotional release were definitely part of that. So.
yeah, and are we talking self-pleasuring? We mean masturbation,
Yes.
without or with ejaculation without, but yeah, just enjoying your body and enjoying the time. I like that. Honeymoon with yourself. That's beautiful, actually. Um,
Yeah.
the other question I think you've answered was because that was something that came up for me, is that, okay, so how long do you know you're there? Because there's not, I take it there's no clock or whatever. Obviously, it's pitch dark. There's nothing
No.
else in terms of time. So it's no day and night. And then, sometimes what came up for me was thinking that you may be there for only a day, but it could feel like 5 days, and you're waiting for the guys to open the door, or you could feel like a day or two, and it's already 5 days, and then all of a sudden
No,
the
it's the
guys
first one.
come.
It's the first one. It
Okay,
doesn't
okay,
suddenly speed past. It's like time stretches out in a way that I don't experience it anywhere else. Five
okay.
days feels really long because, you know, what else happens is as soon as you get into the dark, your natural synchronization with your circadian rhythms is gone because you don't see light. And so what happens there is that, and from what I understand, is that the body takes rest. On the first few days, I slept super well, super long, like 12 hours or something. My sleep cycle at night becomes shorter and shorter. It's like the body is feeling rested, and because it's in a state of meditation and relaxation all the time, the emotional state between sleep and awake feels like it's quite close to one another, meaning like I'm just chilling and meditating in the dark most of the day. That's not dissimilar to lying down on my bed and being asleep for that time. And so when I decide I want to sleep, in inverted commas, and I lie in my bed, it's like, oh, I just lie awake for hours and hours and hours, not able to fall asleep. So again, there's that like time stretch where you would normally sleep for 8 hours. I think the last night I slept for maybe 3. And Yeah, and because you don't know what the time is, the only way you can tell what the time is if there's birds outside or not. But that's also a mind fuck, because on the last night I go to sleep and I'm like, oh sweet, I'm coming out tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. So I hear the birds sort of starting to quieten down in the evening before, and I'm like, I'm wanting to get out now. So there's a part of me that's like, fuck, I'm done with this. I'm well done. You've completed it. Let's get out. So I'm sitting there in meditation in the afternoon. Again, not sure what the time is because it's complete darkness, and I hear the birds starting to quieten down, and then there's no birds, and I'm like, cool, it's nighttime now. And then suddenly they'll start up again. I'll be like, oh no, not nighttime yet. And then they carried on for like another hour or 2 hours, and I'm like, you have no idea what time is. Eventually, it starts to stop, and then there's complete silence for a decent amount of time, and I'm like, okay, so now it must be nighttime. All I need to do is go to sleep, and then I'll wake up tomorrow, and then I'm done with this whole experience, and I'm feeling excited about getting out. Anyway, I lie in bed for a good few hours, don't fall asleep, then fall asleep, and I don't know how long I'll fall asleep for, and I wake up, and I'm like, okay, is it 10:30 at night, or is it 4:30 in the morning? I have no idea where I'm at. So should I be trying to go back to sleep, or should I be getting up and getting ready to go? And so you lie around waiting for the birds to come again and nothing. So you're in this like liminal space where you genuinely have no idea what time it is, and you're, yeah, just having to sit with that. Hey?
Yeah, and I can just imagine that you could also lose track of count because I get it. It's 5 days, so after one, you hear the birds and whatever, and the next day, and the food maybe 2 meals a day. I think you said, so maybe you can count
Mm-hmm.
them. But you can also, by two or three or four. My understanding is you can get a bit disorientated. You may lose track of time. That's just a thought I had. And you may think you're out tomorrow, but you actually missed a day, either added today or subtracted today. So it can be quite a bit of a
That happened
mind
on my
fuck.
first one. That happened on my
Really,
first one
Gareth?
where I was like, yeah, where I was like, am I coming out tomorrow or the next day? I eventually had to write on the thing and say, am I coming out in 2 days time or 1 day time? Because exactly that. I was like, it just blurs into each other. There's no real distinction except for some birds and the box where the food comes through. You have no idea what time it is there.
Okay, so you're an expert now. It's your second time around, and no, I
No.
promise you, that's what I thought. I thought that could happen. I mean, I know of a guy. I don't know if you've ever come across. It's a guy that did a teacher in India in a Dalai Lama village where he Siddha Kundalini, sacred geometry, Siddha Kundalini initiation. And this guy, this crazy Israeli guy, went in for 3 months, Gareth.
Yeah.
Three
That's the,
months.
the it's
That's
the
crazy.
normal cycle for this practice. The Buddhist temple, or the Buddhist tradition of this is 7 cycles of seven. So it's 7 weeks, 49 days. So I think that's a little shorter than what you're talking about, but the same thing.
Oh, it's like,
It's a
but
lot, eh?
I thought I'll ask you because I mean, obviously, trusted guy, hugely amazing, amazing guy. But afterwards, I was thinking, when I repeated this to someone, did I hear wrong? Is it possible? So that must be just even more. So yeah, I think he said he basically wasn't in his body anymore. I mean, he was in that room, but he wasn't in his body. Him and his body were like two different
Hmm.
things. Um,
I can't imagine. I mean, 5 days has been my longest. I can't imagine what it would be like to stay longer. What I can share is what starts to happen is on day two, you start to get these like flashes of light that come into your experience. So you're in the dark, but there's like sort of a flashing light that comes. And so how I understand it to work is that the brain starts to create pre-DMT, DMT, and then full pineal gland activation that comes from being in the dark as a function of the time spent without access to light. And so that happened in the first one, and it happened again stronger this second time round. But I think that gets stronger and stronger the longer that you're in. And there's often the sense of like being in the space with your eyes open or closed that actually makes no difference. There's this general sense that, I can feel some light coming in from here, even though I'm in complete darkness. It feels like there's light. But when you turn to look at it, that same light spot is now behind you again. And so you're like, there's this
okay.
feeling that there's light there, but it's actually just like a trick of the brain that comes. And it started to get stronger and stronger to the point where I experienced this stronger on the second time, with it meaning this last retreat that I did, was that the mind then also starts to get, let me say this differently. As you walk around the room, you have no clue where it is. You go in with a candle. This is how it starts. You go in with a candle, you unpack your stuff, you see yourself around the room, you get orientated, and then you say, okay, I'm going in. You close the door, you have this candle, and you settle into the space. And when you're ready to start your dark retreat, you blow the candle out, and that's how the retreat unfolds. That's how your time unfolds. So that's how you go into the darkness. So you have an idea where the bed is, and you have an idea where the shower is and stuff. And so you blow the candle out, and now you now need to remember where these things are. So you spend pretty much the whole 5 days walking super fucking slowly with your hand out in front of you, making sure that you know where the wall is and the toilet's here. The first 3 times I took a piss, I was missing the toilet, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to pee standing down because I can feel I don't know where I'm going. I can feel where I think it might be, but like I don't want to clean up every time I have a pee because I can't see where I'm peeing. So I'm always sitting down to pee. And after 5 days, my mind is starting to make sense of where it thinks the world is, and this continual light source is actually getting stronger. And it became really sort of disorientating for me on the last day, the last sort of 48 hours, which was the mind is starting to make pictures of where it thinks things are in the room based on where I think they are. And this light that I think I can see, it's an illusion of light because there's no light in there. And I know that, for example, there's like the whole thing is made of stone. So I'm like, I can see stone walls all around me. I sit down to have a pee and I look down and I can see my feet like as a shadow of my feet. But when I put my hand down there to touch them, that's not my feet. Like I'm starting to create pictures of what I think is in my world using this light. And it's fucking disorienting. It's easier not being able to see because your brain doesn't think it knows what's there. It's just forcing its way around. But that was super challenging the last 48 hours.
Gareth, that's amazing. I've been having those experiences where I close my eyes. It's often when I go to sleep at night or in the morning, or I wake up and I close my eyes and I can actually see things. But as if there's stuff happening out of the window, lying, but my eyes are closed, but I see the trees and this and that and whatever. But if I open
Uh-huh.
my eyes, they're actually not there. It's dark, or
Yeah.
I was looking at the wall. Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a little bit similar.
Yeah. There's something for me in one of the things I've been passionate about, we've spoken about this a few times, is reality creation, like reality
Mhm.
hacking. What does it mean to live in reality? And most of us create a reality based on our stories, past and future, and what unfolds. As a society, specifically in the West, we've become disconnected from other realms of reality, meaning what makes your dream space less real than your everyday waking state, in inverted commas. The difference between the reality is that we as a species have prioritized our waking life as somewhat more important than our dream life. This is the version that matters because I can hold up this water bottle and it's solid. But when I go to sleep tonight and I hold up the same water bottle, that reality is not much different to this. It's just on a different vibrational frequency, and there's not much difference. And a lot of the dream yoga traditions and the ability to be able to do astral travel and those sorts of things really give you an opportunity to access or to wake up into other states of reality through things like dreaming. And that was one of my intentions going into the dark as well, as to continue to deepen my practice with lucid dreaming. And while I
Beautiful.
didn't get lucid in the dark retreat, I'll share one thing which is quite funny. It's like one of the ways to get lucid in a dream is to first of all set an intention that you're going to wake up in the dream, and then have a plan of what you're going to do when you wake up in the dream. And so for anybody that's had a lucid dream before, it's the idea of waking up inside a dream. So your body is asleep and a version of you knows that you're awake in your dream, and you get to run opportunities, fantasies, train, do all sorts of different things in the dream space, free of the constraints of this reality. Meaning I could say, okay, I'm going to go and visit Lenerd in Cape Town, and suddenly I'm there because I don't have the constraints of actually having to move. That reality doesn't have the same constraints as the 3D realm in which I live when I'm awake. So I'm setting the intention in the dark room, and I'm about to go to sleep, and I say to myself, the next time I see anything, I'm going to know that I'm dreaming because I'm in darkness. So as soon as I see anything, I'm going to do a reality check. I will realize that it's a dream, and then I'm going to be lucid and I'll wake up in my dream. And so that was the practice. The second, I think it might have been the third night, I set this intention. I fall asleep at some point, and then in my dream, I dream that I break out of the dark room and I'm suddenly out in the light, and I'm like, oh, I can see. And so I don't do a reality check because in my dream, I'm like, oh, I've broken out of the dark. I'm free to just be myself again. And then I wake up a couple of hours later and I'm like, fuck, I'm back in the dark. And that was a dream. But this like this line between awake and asleep and the reality of being in this body in a dark room versus the version of me that traveled in my dream space, those veils become pretty thin in the dark. And I think, this I was only in for 5 days. I could imagine, the type of person you're talking about who goes in for 3 months and is sitting there, there's probably not much difference. Your body's there, but you're just continually journeying in these different realms as a function of sleep states and awake states. So
Mm.
yeah, it's
Yeah, my intuition and my gut feel says to me, I don't think it's, well, for me, my truth, a good thing to do is 3 months. I definitely want to do the 5 days, maybe 10 days, but three, I don't know. I don't know. I think there's something there about losing a total reality of this life. Um, yeah, no, lucid dreaming, that's super interesting. Yeah, no, lucid dreaming yeah, that's an amazing experience.
do you get lucid?
Yeah, I had this, yeah, I had this. I never trained in it. I just started happening to me, and then I was in London, and I went. A friend of mine said, "Come to this talk tonight," and I went to this talk, and here's Charlie Morley talking about this thing, and I went, "Oh fuck, this is what I'm doing." And he's the lucid dreaming guy, in the UK,
He's my teacher. I love him.
oh
He's
wow,
so
yeah, he's
cool.
amazing. I met the guy, and I went, "Oh fuck, I'm doing this thing." So it just started happening to me, Gareth. But then I did actually. I signed up for Araminta's course. I know your partner does the lucid dreaming. I unfortunately didn't complete the course. I still want to complete it. So it's definitely calling me. Yeah, no, for me, it's. I mean, I had one the other day, God, where I had a blowjob from the Queen of England, the young version, the early 20-year-old younger version, in the in this crazy room with this red colors and stuff. And I knew it was a dream because it was so surreal. And I went, oh, fuck, this
Hmm.
is a lucid dream. So, and then I played
Wow.
around a bit with that, but I did wake up out of the dream. But yeah,
Talk
yeah.
about being in your king.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I knew it was absurd. All this high ceilings with the chandeliers, and just this 21, 2-year-old version, and she was much more beautiful than she was at 21. So yeah, so it's amazing what one can do with this.
Fuck, dude, I'm actually
Yeah.
just realizing now. This is for those of you that are watching on the video version, this is my notebook that I took in with me. Notice all of the writing is pretty messy and pretty sideways. But I noticed that I remember now that you're talking, Brew. Um, I was with Leonard. We had lost my bags. We were supposed to travel somewhere. This is one of the dreams that I had in the dark. I had a dream of you. I dreamt that we were traveling somewhere. I had lost my bags and I went to the airport without it. And you were going to bring them because you lived close to the airport, but you didn't bring them. And then you came to me and we had a conversation where you said, listen, I'm feeling really swag because I had lived so close and I didn't bring your bags. And you just sort of wanted to apologize for me. But I actually forgot that I'd had a dream of you inside the dark where, yeah, you didn't bring my bags, even though you lived close to the airport. I don't know what it signified, but yeah, it was interesting.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, that's okay. You were busy getting a blowjob from the Queen. No
Oh, the
problem.
Queen kept me busy. Oh, that's amazing, Gareth. So that's actually cool. That's actually very clever. So you can obviously can't see what you're writing, but you have a book there and a pen. That's actually very. I mean, that if I do it,
So
that'd be a good.
the book and the pen, it was a game changer for me the first time. I noticed I didn't write so much this time, but the first time I went in, I was writing and writing and writing whatever came through. But you need to have a system because you can't see where you've written, and you need to remember where you finished. Otherwise, you write
Mm,
over what you've already written if you don't put the pen in the right place and remember because you don't know what you've written on the page. So, but that
yeah.
did create a lot of space. And as I'm reading this, I'm realizing there's another piece of gold here, which was I also had a dream that second night, which was before this like anxiety of all the sexual frustration. I had dreamt that I'd been thinking about South Africa as well. We spoke before we started recording here that I'm coming back to South Africa at some point, and I'm looking forward to coming back and seeing friends and family, but also I want to get back into the bush and see some animals. And so I think that had been alive in my experience. In my dream, I dream that I'm on a game drive, like on a safari drive, and I see a whole lot of animals that have been mauled but not eaten. So like a whole line of elephants, and all of them have got like something that's been mauled out of them, like something's attacked them but not eaten them. So what I took from that was like an animal that's just fucking angry, but not actually killing for the sake of food. It's just like running this. Only to realize now that as I'm sitting with this, like that feels like Ivan, my tiger, who was busy being anxious in the corner and perhaps not getting the space that he wants, I think in my dream space, he was the one. My subconscious is projecting that into the game drive where all of these animals have been mauled but not eaten. Is the angry animal, which was the tiger, that sort of unfolded for me in the days afterwards, which is, I don't know, I find this stuff so interesting, like the projection of what happens in our dream space and what it could potentially unlock or be pointing to in my physical reality. But that was, I just realized that now as I'm reading through this, these notes that I made in the doc, that I think it was my tiger. I think some part of me was like fucking angry because of like, this intimacy not moving in my world and just like, yeah, just creating havoc on this game drive or out in nature.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I know it seems like a accelerated thing, when you wake up in the middle of the night with, just these emotions coming up, and then putting it in a 5 days in a dark space, similar.
Mm-hmm.
I almost had an iboga journey also, and it's only a day or two, but these things coming up, these voices coming up. Yes, Gareth, no, that's inspiring, man. I think I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to just find a place.
I want to ask you something. I shared one of the themes which I've got written up on my whiteboard here, which was around fun, and I'll share how I got there. Did you have something that came up for you when I shared that? Or was it just a general
Oh
inquiry around the
yes, you
theme?
did. Yeah, what were you that you posted on the father son brothers group? It was something. How I actually could potentially remember the words. How would it look like if it was fun or more fun? Something like
Exactly.
that.
How would this look if it was fun?
Exactly. I remember the words even. I looked at it and I went, "Fuck! This is also a message for me." And I know we have like it's amazing. We have this similar kind of strange thing happening in our lives. Also, sometimes mirror reflection stuff. But yeah, definitely. I read that and I went, I think there's a message in for me. How can
What
it
does
be
it mean
more
for
fun?
you?
I find myself I'm too I could have more fun in my creation. Not just the balance, and I don't even want to call it work play or work life, because work I think is also should be play. But actually
Yes.
that's exactly it. That's where I want to get to. I think I got to the last few weeks. Was busy with the second edition of my book, and then I was watching American master classes 2 weekends in a row, and it's like from 5 p.m. until 3 in the next morning. And I
Uh-huh.
think
I
I just
remember.
lost a little bit the fun of life, and I started getting a bit tired and a bit almost exhausted and burnt out, like the last few
Mm-hmm.
days, last week. Um, and I just went, wow, man, there's a message for me, and that's how in previous life, in business space and corporate space, that's just how I really created when I was in having fun. I was having fun creating stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
it was a warning signal for me to make sure that I still keep on having fun when I create and not go into this hard drive masculine mode of where you're forcing yourself and you're not loving or kind to yourself.
So good, bro. I mean, that's a theme for me as well. And that's why it came up because one of the days, one of the things that I did was this process of aspecting. You know what it is, but for everybody else, it's basically an opportunity for you to use like some sense of an opportunity to have a conversation or open a dialogue with an inanimate object or somebody that's not actually there. So you can have an aspecting conversation with a past lover where you say what it is that you want to say to them, and then you move into the space where they are, and then just trust whatever comes through your experience as the words that may have come from them or the messages that may come from them. And so one of them for me was I took the opportunity to aspect with the father, sons, brothers creation and my business. And I was going through the process of moving my emotional energy and asking questions for it. And the themes that came up for me were it's not about the money. So I was like, the business told me this in this process of aspecting, where it's like it's not
Mm,
about the money because I have in the past held and do still have some threads of a story that somehow my success is a function of dollars in the bank or number of the success of a specific launch or something like that. And so you
mm,
are already successful was one of them. It's not about the money, and make sure that this is always fun, like because those were the messages that came through for me around business. And it's the same theme that you're talking about, the part of me that knows what I like to do. And then perhaps from a wounded place, I'm like, all right, I now need to make sure I get the next thing going so that it makes money. And then somehow my success or happiness or validation is linked to the results of that particular campaign or that particular launch. And then the money will come and there'll be more money and then maybe I'll be happy, you know? And it's like the message was so clear, dude, you're already successful. It's not about the money and keep having fun. And I was like, yes, I needed to hear it again. And it's been so good just having this up on my whiteboard because I noticed that whenever, over the last, how long have I been out now? I got out on Friday. Today's Tuesday. The last 5 days have really been like wherever I feel contraction, I just go like, what would this look like if it was fun? You know, what would it look like if this pile of dishes that's now mine to do in the house was looked like
Mm.
fun? Next thing, I've got some tunes on. I'm dancing in the kitchen. The dishes are doing themselves. I'm just having a fun time dancing and moving in the kitchen. It's like that's what this would look like if it was fun. And yeah, the same as you, I can feel a part of me that somehow takes the whole thing a bit too seriously, and it takes
Mm.
any of the the juiciness of it. It takes it out completely and makes it feel like work. And not only is it more difficult for me, but I feel less connected to my creativity. The work's not as good or as inspiring. People want to be connected to people that have got a good vibe, and fun seems to bring that excitement. Eh?
Exactly. And you just used the word creativity there. And on that same day that I saw your whiteboard note, I also looked at my one of my Osho cards, tarot cards, and it was I draw
Mm-hmm.
creativity. And I won't talk about
Mm.
how, just to summarize the one line that stood out. I mean, there was so much that was in that 2, 3 paragraphs, but the one was, it's actually not what you do, is with what feeling are you doing it? How are you doing it?
Yes,
Are you doing it
yes,
joyful or so, and it just went, yeah, that is so critical. And yeah, no, it's been very much relevant for me also. In the last few days, the weekend, thought about exactly that. Um, Another message that came out, also similar to this, was do the things that light you up and you enjoy. The other stuff, delegate all of it or just don't do it. Because I've got a
yes.
whiteboard here, probably see a bit of it here with the things to do and things there. I think just those things are tiring me on the stuff that's sitting there. So part of it I can just wipe out, others I can
Mm-hmm.
delegate. And the stuff that is a bit admin that I don't necessarily like doing, I can just change the feeling, like you're talking about washing the dishes. I'm putting
Yes.
a WhatsApp on my WhatsApp into business kind of thing is one of the silly example. I can actually just make it fun now rather than this admin task that is going to kill me.
Uh
So I
huh.
love that, Gareth.
Yeah, bro, and that's true for life. I think the ability with which you show up for the tasks that your life is calling you to do, knowing what it is that's yours to do, and serving that purpose and showing up for it joyfully, even when it feels like doing a tax return or life's not always going to be peaches. But
Sure.
yeah, let go of the stuff that doesn't bring you joy, and the things that you have to do that don't feel like they bring you joy. There is a choice. You can choose to just be fucking grateful for this pile of dishes that has
Sure,
created all this amazing food for myself. It's just a reframe.
sure, sure. No, exactly. I mean, even the tax example, because I hate admin, but then that's an extreme example of admin. But when I did it, the last one, I actually enjoyed it because I love spreadsheets also. So I thought, fuck, let me just enjoy the spreadsheet. And I actually got it done in a day. And I've been fucking sitting for 6 months wanting to do it. And I actually went to do it in a day. And I actually
Uh-huh.
had fun. And I did,
Amazing.
and it went in, and there was no problem with it coming back. So it was probably also with good energy. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that came through in the dark was the excitement that I have around the co-creation that you and I have been speaking about at a high level. We've been talking about your work and yeah, how we can co-create something together. So before I download that, because a lot of the creativity pieces and what I'm excited about that came from the dark was the exploration of what a co-creation between you and me could look like. Maybe you want to just share for those of you who haven't checked out the first podcast we had with Lenerd. I will link to that episode in the show notes of wherever you're watching this if you want to hear the conversation where I was interviewing Lenerd as opposed to Lenerd interviewing me. Share with our audience what it is that you do, what lights you up, what your journey's been, and how you came to be doing the work that you're doing at the moment, brother.
yeah, Gareth. As you know, I'm just passionate about lovemaking, and I'm passionate about more people making love and making love more often. It's like almost a forgotten thing out there, and so many people are disconnected from their sexual energy, and and not really living their full potential in
Hmm.
connection, art connection, lovemaking connection, sexual mastery. So specifically, as far as men is concerned, so yeah, I'm just super stoked about that. I mean, I saw a stat the other day. I'm gonna share that with you. I think it came out in the UK, and it was like men in the ages of 18 to 30, and a third of them haven't had sex in the last 12 months. These are guys in their 20s. And then I
What do you
see
think that
that.
is?
I see that in exactly that same reaction you had then, like it breaks my heart. I mean, I can see you had the same result. It really breaks my heart, because I just go like, fuck, that is super sad, they're not experiencing so much of what's here on this planet. Maybe when we finish here, we go to other planets and we're light bodies and we're so advanced and we don't have need food and sex. But on this planet, food and nature and lovemaking is part on the menu. Now, why wouldn't you
Yeah.
want to enjoy it? So I
Yes.
feel so sad if I see people, and I know what it has done for me in my life. Lovemaking. The connection of intimacy with someone. Um, and you ask what I think it is. I think a big part of it is, I think the screen thing, getting on the screen. I think porn plays a big role. You know, it takes the incentive away for guys the next day to go and talk to a beautiful woman because they watched porn last night and ejaculated to it, so that that hungriness isn't there the next day, and then
Right.
it's difficult to approach a beautiful woman or any woman. So now you're not doing it, and then you don't have the opportunity to make love. So I think there's so much, there's so many reasons for that. So yeah, so I'm just super passionate of bringing that, you know, without guilt, shame, and fear uh, to the world, and for people just to drop into their sexuality and to understand it better and to master it, and especially for men, that seems to be what's driving me at the moment.
Mm. Bro, I'm really stoked that you're doing this work. You have been an inspiration for me on this journey as well. Ejaculatory choice, for those who haven't checked out that first episode with Lenerd, is really the recognition that lovemaking is an experience in and of itself. It's not specifically a goal towards getting to an ejaculation, which I think is where I had my programming for most of my life. My masturbation practice and having sex with somebody was really about a finish, making sure that I ejaculate at the end. And I didn't realize that there was even a thing called ejaculatory choice, meaning you could make love and can make love for countless hours while not ejaculating. And that brings you back into the body in a different way. It also helps you reclaim and reharness that energy rather than ejaculating it out. And yeah, I had a relationship with masturbation for most of my life, which looked like a couple of minutes by myself almost every single day. I didn't realize how depleted I felt until I went on Lenerd's 21-day ejaculatory choice journey, which is 21 days of cultivating these practices of harnessing that seed. That doesn't mean not making love. That doesn't mean no masturbation. It means really coming back into the body and being connected to the sexual energy, but not ejaculating it out. And yeah, I'd love to hear your experience of what you've seen, like results that you've seen through the community of men that have been through your 21-day program.
Oh, it's been amazing, Gareth. The testimonials I got getting out of that is just mind blowing. Guys are dropping into, sure, things that the course is not, that you can't even put on a webinar or a sales page. Things like the one guy just found his inner boy, and he was just, wow, walking around and seeing nature around him. This is not something that you would think you would learn from a sexual mastery course, but it
Uh-huh.
is, because he became so aware of his body, and then he became aware of everything around him and the flowers in a garden. Um,
Mm.
and the same guy also, he repeated the 21 day, and he had this, he shared with us, he made love to his wife 3 times the night before, and she climaxed every time, and he didn't ejaculate, and he said he's never thought that possible at all. So it's
Wow.
from this practical part of lovemaking longer, but it's also then to this other more mystical part of awareness that it just becomes bigger. And as you say, your energy, that just, people have so much more energy. People get, it sounds like woohoo, but people, the guys, after the 14 days to 21 days, they start glowing. So women start talking to them in the street, come talk to them in
Mm-hmm.
a coffee shop. Guys get
Mm-hmm.
work offers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's quite magic that comes out of this.
Bro, what I started this conversation off by saying is that I believe that everything else is a relationship that I have with myself. And I have, since understanding this type of practice, been living with this phrase of that I am my own best lover, meaning that I
Mm.
cultivate my own life force energy, that I get self activated. I don't need porn or fantasies or my partner to be the one to get me off. I am doing that by myself by using the practices that you teach in this 21-day program. And it's obviously fucking magnetic because people want to be with people that are together and grounded and centered in their own clean energy. And when you spend 21 days cultivating that energy with yourself, you then arrive to your life, your relationships, to lovemaking, to your job, feeling more in your own power because you're like, I fucking got this. I don't need you to validate me. I don't need to have sex to feel good about myself. If I choose to have sex and we make love, fucking epic. But I don't have to. I'm not constantly hooking in my life for connections or for validation or whatever. And I know this in my own life to be true. And so as soon as I'm cultivating that sexual energy with myself, I am becoming my own best lover. And there's something so fucking sexy about that for me with myself, which is like, you're fucking delicious, brother. Look at this meat suit that I've been blessed to live in, this cock that I get to activate myself with without running fantasies, without any of that stuff, and just really tuning in and developing and falling deeply in love with myself, only to realize that, suddenly I'm more attractive. I feel better in my life. And so, yeah, bro, it's such important work. Eh?
Yes, Gareth, and that's why I'm so excited. To touch about our collaboration there, you using the word relationship. So out of that, so that's the thing. The guys do this 21 days, and their relationships and with everything around them changes. And then what we were talking about, you and I, about your rolling from there into, I don't know whether it's the right place to talk about it here now, but rolling into from the sexuality part into the relationships part. That you offer your beautiful solo to soulmate thing. It's because then you like almost get all of this energy is building up, and then you get to know your own relationship. It ties so nicely together. So I'm super excited about that, Bru.
Me too. So let's give a little high level of what we wanted to co-create. Lenerd and I are going to be co-creating a sort of a relationship mastery, sexual mastery program. The name is still to be decided, but it's basically going to be a combination of Lenerd's 21-day journey that I'm going to go through with him again. He's going to hold point for a group of men to go through his 21-day program, which is what we've been talking about now, to reconnect with their body, reconnect with their sexual life force, understand these practices and principles of love making without ejaculation, falling more deeply in love with yourself, harnessing the sexual energy and not just wasting it out through ejaculation every single day. At the end of that, we're going to be running the program that we ran probably about a year ago called From Solo to Soulmate. And this is really a relationship container for men that are looking to call partnership in or are in a partnership but feel like they need some additional tools to help the relationship that they've got. And so Solo to Soulmate is a 6-week container with one call per week looking at different themes of dating and relating. So it has to do with getting clear on the type of partner that you want to call in, like really owning the desire of the type of relationship that you want and the type of relationship that you don't want. These things seem pretty evident, but many people fall into a relationship without taking the time to get clear on what it is exactly that I want in partnership. The next week, we talk about decluttering and some freedom from the past, meaning if you haven't done the cleanup work of your last few relationships, it's very possible that you're going to bring some of that messy energy into your new partnership and it's going to make a mess with that. We talk about dating and relating, and we talk about becoming your own best lover. And so we're going to really flow with some of the power that you build from the first 21 days with Lenerd into a plan that's going to really support you, including practical things like communication frameworks, both to have difficult conversations with your current partner, but also how do you have that conversation when you go on a first date with somebody or before you connect sexually with a partner? What's the best way to have a conversation that makes both of you feel safe so that you can move in the intimacy? Because I know in my past, most of my intimate connections look like, there's some energy with this woman at the bar. Let's have a few tequilas and then end up back at my house. That actually sounds something like, do you want to come back for coffee? Complete bullshit. None of us are there for coffee. It's not nothing to do with coffee, but I'm not grown up enough to say, do you want to come back to my place and make love? So we do that. And then we get back home, and then we're suddenly like fucking all into each other. Clothes are coming off, nail marks on the back. And then you're in that moment of about to maybe make love. And we haven't taken a moment to talk about, like, what do you want? How do you like to be touched? What are we going to do about protection? What's your sexual health status? And so in the heat of the moment, we're sort of winging it. But those engagements can be so much more gentle and so much more relaxing if you have an adult conversation beforehand, where you have a simple framework that allows you to be able to check in with, what are your desires? What does this connection even mean? What does aftercare look like? So we're going to be sharing some of that stuff for 6 weeks. And then at the end of that, with all of that in, Lenerd's going to come back and share something around sort of a level 2 around lovemaking. So once you've understood these practices of your personal lovemaking, Lenerd's got some additional tools. Maybe you just want to touch on some of that, brother. What do you want to talk about there specifically in the second phase of your part of the creation?
Yeah, there's quite a number of things there. But for example, yeah, just dropping into lovemaking, practical things, like knowing how to read your partner, the woman you're with, dropping into your masculine, feminine energy, so you integrate it, so you can feel your partner better. When is the right time to penetrate? These things aren't like, there's not a point one, two, three, but it's intuitive. So we're dropping into intuitive lovemaking. There's so much there. Then yeah, it's what's the one thing that I just forgot about? I want to mention here. Oh yes, the range of lovemaking. There's the slow, sensual, but then it's also ravishing and hard fucking, and there's this range. And a lot of people feel there's no permission to do the ravishing. There's just two of
Yes,
the themes, and we'll cover quite a number of themes because at school we learn how to play rugby, we learn how to play football, and gym. What is the good form to have in a gym? But no one talks to us about sexuality and some tips and
exactly.
some insights about it. So it's really just to give you just a bit of background and yeah, just bit of mastery in that space. And it's going to be very fun and light.
Yeah. What would this look like if it was fun?
Yeah.
Join us and you will see. I want to just say one final piece around this, and that is, we talk about these connections of masculine and feminine, and we talk about our partners being potentially heterosexual, but this work extends beyond your ability to connect with women or with men. It doesn't really matter whether you live in a male body or a female body. We both have access to masculine and feminine energies, and the ability to be able to move between these is what we're going to be cultivating in this course. And so it doesn't matter whether you're connecting, the container is for men, people who identify as men. But if you're bisexual or gay, or it doesn't matter how you relate, these tools and techniques, as Lenerd said, is more to do with intuition and the feeling of the energy of the other person, irrespective of what body they're in or how you're connecting physically. So, yeah, this is not just for heterosexual men, it's for men who, yeah, are bi-curious, whatever your sexual orientation is. This program is going to have a lot of ability for you to be able to connect to these energies and support you, irrespective of how you identify and move sexually.
Yeah, so spot on, Gareth. I mean, we often use this heteronormative language, but yeah, my 21 day course had quite a few bisexual and gay guys on it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, I agree.
yeah. Brother, I'm so stoked to have you in my life. I really love how we've been flowing since our paths crossed. I'm looking forward to seeing you in South Africa. We're going to get off this call, and in the next few days, going to have another call to really dial in exactly what this program is going to do, what's going to be about, and some of the specifics around it. But when we release this episode, we'll probably put a link to more information about this program in the show notes. So if that's interesting for you, jump in. Where can people get hold of you, brother, if they want to find out more about Lenerd Louw?
The best is lenerdlouw.com. If you can put it in the show notes, it's quite a spelling, but lenerdlouw.com, and on that is can book a call there or WhatsApp. Social media is there. A lot of free resources also. Yeah, the website's the best, Gareth.
Nice one, brother. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this post game. It really has helped Matt. We really wanted to have this conversation, and Matt is busy supporting his partner, who's an air hostess, and so she's in the moment in a flying phase, and he's at home playing super dad. And yeah, podcast co-creation didn't feel like it was in his flow. So yeah, this feels like a really good opportunity for us to jump on here and have this conversation. And I appreciate you taking the time to do it, my brother.
Big pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, bro.
And for those of you brothers who want to see Lenerd and myself, the last Sunday of every single month is our free online men's circle called the King Circle. It's an opportunity for you to sit in circle with other courageous and open-hearted men that are practicing having difficult conversations and using some tools and frameworks to be able to better describe your inner world. And when you are able to articulate and describe your inner worlds, you really start to build strong trust with yourself. When you take those tools and conversations and describe your inner worlds to the people around you, you build trust in your relationships. So if you're interested in that as well, I'll put links to the show notes in the show notes for the King Circle. Lenerd's there every month. I'm going to be there this month. And if you feel like it would be great to see you there in person. Thanks again, Lenerd.
Cheers, brother.
See you next time. Ciao.
Ciao.